and welcome to Striking Movie Podcast. I'm Val.
I'm Patrick. Thanks for joining us today. We have three movies to discuss today. Let's jump right in. We're going to start with Where the Crawdads Sing, the new adaptation of the bestseller by Delia Owens.
And I think we're both excited about this one, and you have a specific reason because you have gotten to talk to Daisy Edgar Jones.
Yes, I interviewed Daisy Edgar Jones earlier this year for Under the Banner of Heavens, and she's just a delightful person and an incredibly talented actress. I was really excited for this movie because of the chance to see her. I have mixed feelings about the movie, but it's one that's I've had to take several days to kind of let it sink in. Do you want to start, Val?
Yeah, I was super excited to see the movie just because of her as well. I haven't read this book, so I don't have that background, but she blew me away in Under the Banner of Heaven. And the fact that she was like the lead in this, so we got to see her a little bit more. I do think I'm a little conflicted as well because I think the film was very well made. I think the acting was strong across the board. The visuals for me of North Carolina were just beautiful. You know how much I love birds, and there's birds and there's nature and everything. Yeah. And I thought it was a good movie, but by the time I got to the end of the movie, I felt like I was waiting for them to go a little bit further to like bring me in a little bit more. And so for that reason, it's not the best movie I've seen lately, but I still recommend seeing it. And I do think that people that watch the book, there is the circle of people that have listened to the book or read the book that are going to love it. I do think it's going to be this generation's The Notebook. I feel like it's in that realm, but I do think it's stronger as overall story-wise than The Notebook for me.
That could be. I'll admit I've never seen The Notebook. The trailers to The Notebook were too emotional to me to watch the movie, as having had too much family experience with people who, at that time, a grandmother losing her memory before I went through it with my mom. So for this one, I think The Notebook is a good comparison. This is, for those who haven't read the book and are going into it just fresh, I think it's important to remember that it's a Hollywood melodrama, not a drama. I agree about the North Carolina visuals. It was gorgeous. That being said, it is very Hollywoodized in the sense of when I was in North Carolina, the regular people. I mean, I went deep into the South in North Carolina for a trip and for a documentary, and I can tell you that the regular poor people in North Carolina their hair and their clothes don't look nearly as nice and clean and Hollywood as this outcast marsh girl looked in this movie. So it is the movie that it brought to mind for me was A Time to Kill, in the sense that it's the kind of movie that you get really pulled into by the heightened drama of it. And I was totally sucked in while watching it. As the days pass, the sillier elements started to bug me more. So for those who don't know the story, just a really brief description. It's a combination murder mystery and melodrama romance about this girl named Kaya, who grows up in an abusive home, and gradually her family leaves one by one and she's left there alone. She can't read or write or anything, but she's a survivor, and she meets a boy named Tate who teaches her to read and write, and they fall in love, and then gradually through a series of events, she's pulled into being accused of murdering another boy, Chase, who she had a romance with after Kate leaves. And so it's a courtroom drama that tells Kaya's story through flashbacks. For me, Daisy Edgar Jones was marvelous. There was, again, you have to turn off the part of you or not. If you're going to enjoy the movie, you have to accept that this is a very Hollywood drama or melodrama.
Yeah, it's a young adult book turned into a movie. So this isn't biographical. This is not, it's a melodrama. So like, yeah, it's if you put yourself in that mindset, I think that you'll really enjoy it, because I did, like you said, I was sucked in with the story. I was,
me too. I was very sucked in. The elements, I had a hard time with some elements, like the fact that neither of these guys ever are passable as teenagers. You have to really suspend disbelief for that to me. I mean, they look.
I mean, I went to Catholic school and I knew some like gargantuan, like football and rugby players that looked like they were in their 20s. So for me, it wasn't that, and it wasn't that unbelievable.
I definitely struggled with it. I thought that both of them, honestly, I actually think that Harris Dickinson, who played Chase, the one who is murdered, who also appeared in his last big role was in The King's Man.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he gave the stronger performance of the two. The young actor who played Kate was likable, so good looking that even I found him attractive, and I'm flamboyantly straight, but I felt like his acting was adequate, but I wasn't necessarily impressed by him. It's for me, it's Daisy Edgar Jones and David Strathairn as her lawyer who make this movie. The romance, honestly, to me is the weakest element of the story. I was more interested in the murder mystery and just the drama around Kaya's life and her survival.
And that's why I loved it more than The Notebook, because she is such a strong character and we get to know more about why she is the way she is. And the romance is secondary, but there's enough people that are like me that want that romance a little bit. You have it and it's there for you, but there's all these different layers and textures of like that mystery that pull you in. And so that's why I gave this movie a B. It's a solid B for me. It's definitely one that I think that if this is your jam, go see it in the theater. If you're not quite sure, it's a good like Saturday night streaming movie, like with friends or, your person or whatever.
Agreed. I gave it a C. I thought it was really involving. For me, some of the sillier elements were harder to get past, and ultimately my big issue is that the romance is an important part, and I just never really felt the chemistry or connection. I didn't buy the romance between Tate and Kaya as anything more than two actors doing a solid job of playing it. So that for me kept it down to a C. But I do still think this is a movie that is very much either, if you're in the target audience, if you read the book or the descriptions make it sound like something you want to see, go see this. You will enjoy it. You will be engrossed. The crowd that really doesn't like romantic melodrama, which includes a lot of critics, including most of the ones that I know, really, there is a crowd that really won't like this movie. That it's really, because if it's not your jam, it may really not be your jam. For me, it's somewhere in between. If a drama hooks me, even if it's a silly melodrama, it pulls me in, and this one pulled me in enough to be thoroughly engrossed, even with reservations. But I give it a C overall.
Cool. The next one that we're going to talk about, and we will be getting to Thor, which we do not agree on. Patrick and I do not agree on Thor: Love and Thunder. I don't believe. But before that, we're going to talk about what I picked as my pick for this weekend's movie, and that's Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris. And I knew nothing about this movie going in, and I know there have been other makes and stories, but Leslie Manville, like, I am in love with this woman.
Me too.
I want to go have lunch with her. I want to hang out with her. I want her to be my best friend.
I want to marry her.
Movie. Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris. I want Mrs. Harris to be in my life.
I absolutely. So I have just Leslie Manville has become. She's a contender for my favorite actress working today ever since. She blew me away in Paul Thomas Anderson's Phantom Thread. And then last year, she did Misbehavior, which is an incredibly underrated film with Keira Knightley and an actress by the name of Gugu Mbatha-Raw, who I get to call Googs. She lets me call her Googs. I have to throw that around. I'm still on a high from having interviewed her this week and shamelessly flirted with her. It was one of the.
And you can check out that interview on our Facebook page.
Yes, it will be. It will be posted very, very soon. But Leslie Manville played Dolores Hope, Bob Hope's wife, in that one. And then a few months later, she played the villain in Let Him Go with Kevin Costner and Diane Lane. And that character was a character that could have easily not worked with a lesser actress, and she just made it soar. Here, she plays. The thing to me about Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris is that it's a story like It's a Wonderful Life, Forrest Gump, or The Terminal, about a person who just makes the world a better place just by being in it, and who affects everyone around them by their innate goodness. But at the same time, what I also like about it is that it allows her to do something. It allows the character the luxury of pursuing something for herself without playing that as a selfish act.
Yeah.
She's still very, very selfless in doing everything she does and the way she goes about it. But it does say it's okay to pursue your own dream and take something for yourself and have a little bit of self-care.
Yeah,
So,
and the whole movie is about, like you said, dreams. Is everyone has a dream, and hers is to get this Dior dress, right? And at the time that the movie's being made, you had to go to the Dior store. You had to go watch in a room all the models come out, and then it was couture, so it was made for you. And you know, she's just a regular working lady who cleans houses and saves up her money and gets to go. And then there's all the things that happen in between, you know, her getting there, her getting the dress. And as she meets these people, she just has this contagious personality of goodness that you just get pulled in. And as I'm watching this movie, this was the difference between this one and Crawdads for me, is I'm texting my mother-in-law saying, oh my goodness, you have to watch this movie this weekend. Like, you have to. And I watched it twice back to back. Like, literally, I turned it off. I went and made food, did some things, and then I went and turned it back on because I wanted to watch it again. And So this for me, it's my pick of the week because it does make you feel good. There are some things that, of course, are unbelievable about it, but that's the thing about a dream and about feeling good. And
Yeah.
for me, I want to gobble it up and I buy it all. And I gave this movie an A.
I give it an A as well. This is an unapologetic throwback movie to, I mean, it's literally the kind of, for everyone who says they don't make movies like this anymore, if you don't go see Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris, you're part of why they don't make movies like that anymore. So I am seriously, I am holding you accountable. If you, it's like voting. If you don't go see this movie, you don't get to complain about there not being happy, uplifting, feel-good movies that everyone can enjoy. Support a movie like this if you want to see more.
And it has
like
Jason
this.
Isaacs in it, and I love him.
Yeah, I would watch Jason Isaacs do a dramatic reading of the phone book, and he would do it with multiple accents and just hit it out of the park. But the whole cast is divine. It is ultimately Leslie Manville's movie, but Isabelle Huppert is, as a character who is very much like the one Leslie Manville played in Phantom Thread, she's fantastic, and watching the two characters interplay is great. Yeah, this movie just soars, and it's not only my pick of the week, it's on right now, it's pretty high on my favorites of the year list.
Nice. And just to let you know, thank you if you've listened or watched this far. This is going to be a shorter episode because this week we have 2 episodes. There were so many movies that we wanted to cover over the last couple of weeks that we will have another episode with 3 more movies coming out in a couple of days, so that we can talk about our other favorites and maybe not so favorites that are opening this weekend. So we've got about 7 minutes to talk about Thor. Thor Love and Thunder. We're going to start with you, Patrick. Are you a fan of the Thor franchise?
I am a fan of the Thor franchise. Okay. So the first Thor for me, as a Kenneth Branagh fan, I really enjoyed it. The Thor and Loki dynamic. We called King Lear, the characters of Edmund and Edgar, who I played Edgar when I was younger. It's my favorite role I've ever played. It had that Shakespearean quality with a touch. I guess I described Thor at the time as Shakespeare meets Crocodile Dundee done as a superhero movie. The second movie I didn't like so much. It was
I don't think anybody did. I think most of us want it to not have happened.
Yeah, to me, it's not. I will say I like those who call it the worst Marvel movie. I liked it a lot better than Multiverse of Madness, but it's not. It's weak. So one of the big complaints that people have had about the first 2 Thor movies has been Natalie Portman's character, feeling like she didn't get enough to do, that she was this genius scientist, but ultimately her entire motivation was to be love struck by the God of Thunder and things like that. And for me, this one makes up for most of that. Before I get into that, I'm going to backtrack just a little bit and say, as we've talked about Marvel in the past, Val, you mentioned that you're more of a set in this world Marvel fan. Mm-hmm. And I've realized
I'm more of a planet-based.
Yeah. And I've realized that I'm more of a space-based at this point. I'm bored. At this point, I feel like I've seen everything that superheroes can do on Earth, and it's going to take a lot to really excite me about an Earth-based superhero movie. That doesn't mean it can't be done, but...
So hold on. So I am more of a fan of the Earth-based superheroes. If they are in space, great. I'm just saying, I'm more of Captain America and a Spider-Man more than all of the Guardians of the Galaxy characters. I like the characters more. So wherever those characters are, I don't mind.
I see that. I'm more of a Guardians of the Galaxy kind of person.
Yeah. So let's get in, because we don't have much time. Yeah. So compared to Ragnarok, because let's just figure this out, because a lot of people are doing this debate on social media. Are you more of a Ragnarok fan or a Love and Thunder fan?
I'm not going to so much choose between the two. What I'm going to say, I guess, for me, people are looking at it from kind of a simplistic view that way. I'm not ranking it that way. To me, they're separate movies. It definitely follows in the tone of Ragnarok as a Taika Waititi film. The way I would describe it is, every one of the Batman movies, you have the first one where the director is kind of treading lightly, back to Tim Burton. He's treading lightly, doing his thing, but also doing the studio thing. And then they get the next movie and they just run wild and do themselves dialed up to 11. And this is the same thing. Ragnarok was really a departure for Thor and the MCU in being a wild comedy, but Love and Thunder, they gave Taika a lot more leeway to go nuts with it. And for me, he makes it's a comedy that also has heavy drama elements that, I mean, this is a movie that mixes the spirits of Monty Python and Ingmar Bergman in the same movie. And for some people, that really doesn't work. For me, it soared. Christian Bale as Gore the God Butcher, for me, is the complex, amazing Marvel villain that everyone tried to convince me that Thanos is. And I'm sorry, for me, he's just not. I found Thanos to be a frustrating and kind of boring villain. Gore is a fantastic villain. I would say if I'm going to put it down to, I would watch Ragnarok. I probably watched Ragnarok more times than I'm necessarily going to watch this one. But there was so much that I loved about this movie. There is one reservation that I have that some people are complaining about, that I have opinions on and do see the complaints that I can't go into without spoiling a major element. But I will say that for me, this was a quirky, offbeat movie that worked. It worked for me comedically. It worked for me dramatically. It connected with me emotionally. I really loved this film. It was enough to get me excited about Marvel again. And I was getting pretty burned out on Marvel. But the combination of this and Ms. Marvel, which ended yesterday and was such a strong ending, I'm excited about Marvel again. And I'm giving this one probably a really strong B+, bordering on an A.
Okay. For me, I'll be quick. I don't have much time now. I really have enjoyed all of the Thor movies except for the second one. Ragnarok was a lot of fun for me. And I would put the first one and Ragnarok in very separate categories, whereas the last two for me, they touch each other more than the first one. And that being said, I enjoyed this one more than Ragnarok, which is saying a lot. And I will be seeing this movie again. And I'm right there with you. I'm like B+, A. I'm probably an A- on this one.
And that's kind of where I lean.
Yeah, I think I'm at an A- on this one. There were moments of this movie where I looked over at my husband and his face is glowing like a little kid. And he turned and whispered to me, "This is the first time in a long time I have felt like a superhero watching a movie." And to me, that's huge. One, he is a fan of rock music, and there is hardcore rock music in this movie. And he just lit up like a little kid, and watching him watch the movie was so much fun for me. So I'm going to give it an A-.
I'm going to switch to an A- too.
Okay.
You
So we
talked me
agreed
into
on 2 movies today. I thought we weren't going to agree on this one. I'm so excited.
No, this one I couldn't have been. I really wish I could get into. Well, so there's a connection for me. The end, I cried tears of sadness and tears of joy. There is a specific connection to me for this one that makes this. For me, this is my superhero movie. I can't say why without.
You know what? Let's do like a special episode of this movie in a couple of weeks when we can really break down and like have some spoilers, because I'd love to have those chats with you back and forth and then get comments for everyone on how they felt about those moments as well. This is one of those we can totally pull apart in a couple of weeks. We'll give you guys a chance to like watch the movie. But please follow us, comment below, let us know what you thought about these movies, or if you're going to head to see them, if you agreed or disagreed. And then in a couple of days, we're going to be talking about a few other movies. And one, I was very surprised. There is an actress that's out there that I haven't really cared for a long time. And now I'm liking her much, much more. So there's a little teaser from me.
I know which one you're talking about, and we're on the same page.
Yes. All right.
She has become, she's jumped really. I'll say that the movie that both of us were initially not fans of her in, I couldn't get past the first like 30 minutes of that movie. I turned it off because the acting was so bad, and I've become a fan of both of the leads that were bad in it.
Well, I'm excited to talk about that. So we're going to be talking about 3 more movies in 2 days. So you'll know everything that you should see from this weekend. Let us know what you thought about Thor as well. Follow us, comment below, follow us on our Facebook page. And I'm excited to talk 3 more movies with you in a couple days.
Me too. All right. Thanks for joining us today, and enjoy your weekend.